Hello, and thank you for joining us to talk more on Monday. This podcast was started to give a voice to Moore's mission of making opportunities reachable for everyone, and continues today as a way for us to share the mic with like-minded individuals with their own stories to share. Talking More has become our channel for history, mindsets, information you need, and featuring our interns who are learning how to share their voice. Join us on Patreon for our Masterclass with More, hosted by Bria Bradley, as she deep dives with experts on a host of topics key to building your business and legacy. You'll also find our founder content hosted by our founder Ariana as part of our Masterclass, where business owners share lessons they've learned while in business. Today, we are diving into our business and the people who make it more. This month, we launched Issue XII, Cerebral, and today we have two of our contributors joining us from this recent issue. Cerebral takes a look at our mindset and our approach, how our perspectives take on different topics, and how we serve in life. Today, we're joined by Katelyn Munoz and Greg Stowers Jr. Katelyn Munoz is the Director of Business Development at Indiana Teen Treatment Center, where she works with schools, community organizations, and public safety leaders to expand access to mental health and substance use support for youth and families. She also serves as Vice President of Operations for Young Professionals of Central Indiana, helping foster collaboration and leadership among emerging professionals across Indianapolis. Through her work, she focuses on building partnerships that strengthen communities and connect young people to support they need to grow and thrive. Greg Stowers Jr. is a lifelong Indianapolis resident committed to building stronger communities through service, connection, and opportunity. Professionally, Greg serves as the Vice President of Local Government Affairs at the Indy Chamber, a friend of Moore, where he leads strategic engagement between the business community and local government, advancing policies that support economic growth, competitiveness, and community well-being. In this role, he partners with city and county leaders, shapes public policy priorities, and builds relationships that strengthen the Indianapolis region. Greg brings experience across the public, nonprofit, and private sectors, and has cultivated a national network that connects communities to policy, advocacy, and innovation. He serves on the boards of Indy Hub, Mitch Daniels Leadership Foundation, Flanner House, and Indianapolis Indians Charities, and is a member of the Stanley K. Lacey Executive Leadership Series Class. Oh, that's a Roman number. You're going to have to... 48. Class 48.
Shout out to the gang.
Yeah. And Indy Hub's 1828 Leadership Project, Class 11?
Class 6.
Class 6.
It's a team effort. I got you.
All about collaboration here. In 2023, he was named to Indianapolis Business Journal's 40 Under 40. And in 2022, he was selected for the Congressional Black Caucus Institute's Political Leadership Development Program. Greg also leads #LunchBag Indianapolis, what a fun name, an initiative that educates volunteers on homelessness, food insecurity, and compassion while providing tens of thousands of meals to people in need. He's a graduate of Indiana State University and remains deeply committed to developing the next generation and empowering others to lead. Welcome both to the show.
Thank you for having us.
I'm very happy that you're both here. And before we dive into my questions for each of you, I would love to know how you came to write for Issue 12.
Do you want to start first? Or you
I
want
can
me
start
to?
first.
Okay.
So what isn't in my bio that is overly long, and I apologize for that.
It's
I'm trying
great.
to condense it a little bit.
No, you have to talk about yourself.
I got started writing in high school. So for me, it was just a very natural thing. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to contribute in a variety of ways. I ran a hip-hop blog right out of college.
Nice.
That was kind of the thing that sustained me. So an early Kendrick Lamar, early Drake, early Big Sean, that sort of space, the blog era. I feel very proud to have been a part of that in a very small way. Mm-hmm. But Ariana was a member of one of our 1828 classes through Indy Hub, and I was the moderator. I actually ran into her at the Ball and Biscuit, and she had mentioned something about writing, and I was like, hey, I'd love to contribute, and I just kind of threw it out there. And I got a text probably a couple weeks ago, and it was like, hey, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's really all I need. Just give me a laptop, couple candles, and I'll knock it out.
Yeah, you best believe if Ariana hears, I like to write, I like to take pictures,
sure.
I like to contribute, she's going to file that away.
Yeah, Ariana seems to be all over the place. I ran into her actually at a happy hour as well.
Yeah.
Turned up,
and we love it. And while granted, it was a networking happy hour, so that makes it fun.
Yeah,
but I had mentioned to her as well, like, any source of collaboration I'm willing to do. Just tell me what you need.
Yeah.
And I got a same text message and said,
Yeah.
hey, you want to write for us? And I was like, sure. It's like in another life, I was an English teacher anyway, so it's fine.
Right. Well, I'm so glad to have you both here, and thank you for contributing to issue 12. It's turning out to be a really cool issue, and both of your articles I loved reading them. And I can't wait to see them printed as of the time of this recording. I haven't actually gotten to physically hold them in my hands, but it's very exciting. So, Katelyn, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask you some questions about your piece.
Sure.
Your article emphasizes explanation is not justification, which I think is a really interesting concept. How do you balance the understanding, the context behind a young person's actions while maintaining that necessary accountability in support and treatment models that you use at the Indiana Teen Treatment Center?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just over my time working with young people, there is a big push to understand the things that are going on behind the scenes, which is really, really great. However, we still have to be realistic in our approach and understand that long-term effects can happen and how that might shape someone's life further on down the road. So that's why I always say it's an explanation, not a justification. And I've had that conversation so many times with the kids that I've worked with.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. However, that behavior is still not okay. And so what can we do in the future to prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
So that's what main topics that I end up having to discuss. But usually it's after they're like, I got in trouble. Ms. Munoz, can I just come and sit in your classroom? And I'm like, would love you to.
Yeah.
However, we got to talk about whatever happened.
Right.
They're like, no, it's fine. No. I'm like, no, we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And again, most of the time, like there is something underlying, but without understanding that, yes, you have these things, but how can you move through the world without it disrupting you?
Yeah.
And then how we get back up from those challenges is super, super important.
I feel like we're all still learning how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, how do I take these things that are happening to me that are disrupting my life and work through them positively?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's a big thing. It's easy to talk about in that regard. I think it's easy, of course, easier said than done, right?
Absolutely,
So like,
always.
I try to model that as much as possible. I try to be as direct with people about things that might be going on with me. And I'm like, hey, I woke up 3 times last night. Maybe don't bug me with silly things today.
Yeah.
Set the boundaries.
Set the
Yeah.
boundaries.
For
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And holding people accountable.
Of
Even
course.
kids.
Yeah, because
Best
again,
way for them
they're-
to learn, right?
Yeah, well, and they're in that state where, yes, their brains are developing and they don't always have that impulse control and those decision-making skills.
Right.
And we can be aware of that. However, we still have to model that so then they know how to do that when their brains are fully developed.
Yeah.
And then they can control it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Building those positive building blocks
for sure.
for them.
For sure. Absolutely.
Collaboration is so key to your role. What is one concrete challenge that you faced in trying to break down silos between approach, like with the Youth Crisis Intervention Team program, to your potential partners?
Yeah. I think that just over the years and working in education and just working with young people, it is so obvious that these silos are just so disjointed. And we don't want to keep having situations where we're having alternative programming because of incidences that may be happening at the school level or at home, and overworking systems. And if we can have more of a collaborative approach, it makes a huge difference. And I was actually approached by Lance Dardine, who is in charge of the CIT program for the adults. He was like, we need to bring back the youth. He's like, I just don't know what to do when we get those phone calls. And he's like, there's not enough programs out there for that. And I'm like, yeah, awareness is everything. Here's another source, but I would love to dedicate as much time as I can to help you get that off the ground and train people to know how to collaborate with us.
Yeah. That's awesome. Nobody can do anything alone.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I sure
Takes a
can't.
village.
I sure can't. Don't ask me to build anything.
I'm not gonna.
No, I'm not gonna.
For our listeners that span a wide range of people, parents, educators, community volunteers, what would you say is the single most important mindset shift that you would recommend they adopt to help better serve youth and families holistically in their own lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing for me is it's not just a kid problem, it's a family problem.
Yeah.
A lot of times I've encountered individuals who are like, well, he's just having these problems or she's just having these problems. Everything else is fine. Like,
Are you sure
are
about
we
that?
sure? Again, people are not in isolation.
Right.
Things happen. We have reactions, and that's a normal thing. Again, it's a family situation. It's a school. It's a community situation.
Yeah.
And how can we approach that in a way that makes a difference? And I think that, for me, is like the biggest piece, because I need to be able to work with the families, too, because they're that kid's life as
Right.
well. School is their life.
Yeah.
All those things connect, and they all impact whatever's going on with that child.
Right. There's so many variables to behavior.
Oh, so many.
Yeah. So much that goes behind, you know, when we see negative behavior, you know, like I love that you're digging down to the root of it. How can we
Absolutely.
fix things as far down as possible?
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's the hard work, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
the easy thing is looking at the surface level of things. But to your point, I mean, you have to be really thoughtful and intentional around. Okay, there's this issue that we're seeing, but okay, the kid, his parents is having issues, or there are issues at school. There are all these things that I think not even just for the youth, also just for the city as a whole, for our nation, there are all these root causes that are indicative of sort of a larger problem. But the easy thing is to look at, okay, this is what I'm seeing right now, but we've got to be thoughtful and intentional as you are,
Absolutely. Yeah.
about some of those other causes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
always look at those outward behaviors, and sometimes it's those inward things that are actually happening that we need to address first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I'm going to throw it over to you, Greg. Your article, The Work of Community, notes that opposition alone can't sustain community. How do you navigate situations where stakeholders are primarily united by opposition to a policy? And what would be your strategy for pivoting that energy towards constructive, sustained, collective progress?
I think showing up is underrated. So, I don't do a ton of things well. But one of the things that I do, I feel like I do really well, is show up for people.
Yeah.
And I find often when there is opposition, I think there are a multitude of factors that play into that. Some of the things are certainly factual. Some of the things are systemic. But a lot of the problems, and I talk about this in the column, a lot of our problems are interpersonal.
Yeah.
And taking the time to sit with folks. And, at times, like, things get heavy. But I think that's a part of the work. I think we can talk about high-level policy pieces. We can talk about high-level pieces of legislation, but it begins with people.
Yeah.
And we got to understand that there are going to be times where we disagree. But in this space, I think it was John Kennedy that said we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah, I
that was
love that.
based on a time that was more civil in terms of how people engaged. And during that time, there were communities that have historically been marginalized, have historically been disenfranchised. So the model is certainly changing, but I think there's a way for us to put that genie kind of back in the lamp as it relates to just being thoughtful and intentional. Certainly walked in a number of rooms, and in previous roles, I was a chief of staff for the city county council. And as you can imagine, there was certainly some disagreement at times.
Yeah, I bet.
But I know where it comes from. And
Yeah.
it doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from a place of passion and caring about neighborhoods, about their families, the city as a whole. So I think that mindset going into it is, look, we can disagree and we're gonna have it out, but at the end of the day, we're people, and hopefully there's some sort of collective good that we can do. Not going to get everything, but leave with something. So
Yeah, I like that. And I like the idea of trying to break out of your own echo chamber, as it were, really listening to people and trying to see things from their point of view.
Yeah.
We're all entrenched in our own beliefs, but trying to see things from the other side of the table, it gives very unique perspective.
I mean, I again worked in city government for really a total of 4 years, but I think things are so vitriolic right now at the national level, and that trickles down
It does.
to the local level. But I think there's still a subset of folks who just want to get stuff done, or they're Democrat or Republican, independent, whatever. I've never seen a Democrat pothole. I've never seen a Democrat, a Republican pothole. It's just about how we solve these problems together. And, you know, the fringes on all sides, I get where it comes from. That didn't just come out of nowhere.
Right.
But there is still, you know, I think sort of a moderate approach to good governance, to helping folks, to being really thoughtful and intentional. And I don't think we've lost that. I think it just is going to take some work to get back to a place where that's a natural thing.
Yeah, I agree. As the VP of Local Government Affairs for the Indy Chamber.
Shout out to the
Yes, big
team
shout
at
out to
Indy
Indy
Chamber.
Chamber. They have done a lot for us, thrown a lot of pieces and people our way, so we're very grateful for them as well. How do you pitch the value of widening the circle so more people can take part in shaping what comes next to business leaders who might prefer streamlined or top-down approaches to city development?
Yeah. I think community, and part of the reason why we're here is to talk about community.
Yeah.
We cannot negate the value of community. So whether that's a developer coming into a neighborhood that has been historically disinvested to, you know, some major project downtown, we've got to be mindful of the impacts of these developments, right? We talk about these huge projects. I mean, we think about I-65 and I-70. There was a lot of conversation around that. But if you go back 50 years, when I think it was the Eisenhower administration really pushed for highways around the country, there were real issues as it relates to Indianapolis. Ransom Place, Crispus Attucks, the near northwest side. Black folks were directly impacted by those things. And I think that model could understand this is a huge undertaking and it's going to change everything. That's great, but we've got to be thoughtful around how those things impact communities. So when we think about these huge ideas, and there are a number of them that I'm sure we've seen incredible renderings all around the city, but making sure that folks are at the table. And you know, I actually mentioned this in an article. There was a conversation I had just last week with members of a certain community. I'm not going to put the community out there, but a certain community. And it was helpful for me as a reset to understand, okay, we got to make sure we're touching base. I mean, there's obviously a business interest as it relates to the Indy Chamber, but I think at the heart of the work that we do, it is centered around community. And that community, you know, may be the business community, but I think in order to move culture and community forward, we've got to have a mindset of, let me go check in with the OGs over here, or this longtime resident who, you know, has been a naysayer on things. Like, let's go have the meeting and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to a basis level of even what you were talking about. You got to check in with those kids when something happens, because clearly the friction is coming from somewhere. There's some reason we could get to the root of it.
And it sounds like a lot of that underlying explanation. Then how can we move forward?
Right.
And
like, what do we, you know, I think it's really easy to be against things. It's harder to articulate what you're for. So, you know, we don't want this in our neighborhood. Okay, cool. I get it. Let's get that written down. This is what we don't want. What do we want?
Yeah.
And how can we engage with folks that have the potential to move these things forward in a thoughtful and intentional way?
Yeah. I love the idea that if you have a problem, if you come with a solution in mind, you're more likely to be able to resolve your problem.
Like 7 of us around that are just focused in that area, but no. I'm just
well, in collaboration, I feel like too, like everybody should walk away with something that they're proud of from that conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that sometimes that gets lost because people are like just so focused on what they're upset about or things that they're not maybe agreeing on. And it's refreshing to hear that is no longer.
We should end all meetings with one thing that we got done or agreed on.
Right, yep.
And then finally, for you, your article concludes with your great-grandmother's wisdom. You can always make more pie. I love that idea. In the context of Indianapolis's growth and policy discussions, what's a key resource or piece of social capital that you're actively working to expand access to for emerging voices, underserved communities?
Yeah. I think, you know, I could probably go high level with, you know, city initiatives, and I still kind of have that hat on from the city. My therapist tells me it's going to take about 6 months for me to kind of step away from the comings and goings of city politics, and I certainly appreciated that experience because it taught me a lot about power structures and all these kinds of things. But I think it's a little more granular for me. I currently serve as a board chair for an organization called Indie Hub, which has been around for 20 years. And the focus is on 20 and 30 somethings in the city. And it's again, this is a very granular answer, but we get these kind of emerging leaders, and I kind of push back on that sometimes because it's like, you're not emerging, you're a leader right now. You may not be everywhere you want to be in your career, but you're headed that way. And I think it's about expanding those tents. There are all these leadership development cohorts. There's Stanley K. Lacey, there's MDLF with the Mitch Daniels Leadership Foundation, there's United Way, there are all these things, and I think ensuring that those cohorts are reflective of our community, not just by people that have college degrees or people that are, working in certain industries. It's about ensuring that those voices that need to be at the table are at the table. I want to give a quick shout out to now Chief of Staff Chris Bailey, who's the former Chief of Police for the city of Indianapolis. Had a conversation around ensuring or asking, how do we get officers involved in these conversations? As a former city employee, there's it is an interesting dynamic as a Black man and police. That's just real. But because of the relationship that we built, the relationship that I've built with, those hardworking, men and women at IMPD, that voice needs to be at the table. And it may not always be what people want to hear, but I think it's important for people to hear that. Yeah. And that would even be reflective of, our restaurant industry, our skilled trades. These folks need to be involved in these leadership conversations. Yeah. Not only for the things that they can gain from meeting, powerful people around the city, but also the cohort, right? Yeah. I mean, what's it look like to be able to go on a ride along with one of your cohort members? I've done several ride alongs throughout my time here in Indy, and it's a game changer. And just thinking about those industries that we're missing. Those are just kind of three that come to mind, just because we are a city that hosts really well. We've got a great skilled trades space for so many people, but they just need to be at the table more. And I think that's a very granular way about how we expand the tent, but certainly an important way.
I love that you brought up trades. That is, I love all the trades, and I love that a lot of the high schools.
Shout out to my man, John Hooker. Shout out to my man. I'm going to do a lot
You're
of
doing a lot of shout outs. I'm like a little jealous.
Some people are going to be mad. Like, you're great, didn't shout me out. But it's important. When we think about, sort of the kind of recession we're in, these are jobs, these are opportunities that can be available for folks to build a career, to build a life. And it's not a say this the right way. These are important spaces for people to be in. And I think as we continue to navigate, changes in inflation and all these things, these are things that people need to be thinking about. Not only as a subset, but as a primary thing. When you think about kids in 7th and 8th grade, we need folks in these areas, right. and it is an important piece of the culture and the fabric of our city. And I'm just grateful for the work that those men and women do.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, I speak to too many 15 and 16-year-olds, and a lot of them are interested in trades. So that's
good.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
Again, I speak to way too many, but
Yes, please get into HVAC instead of being a content creator.
Oh,
for sure. Well, respectfully.
Respectfully, as
respectfully to all of our content creators. Sure. We are creating content right now, but currently, still, you're absolutely right.
Calls from inside the house.
Yeah. But that's it's the fabric of our society.
For sure.
We have to have those people. So even though it's not as glamorous anymore, it's still vital.
It's glamorous when things ain't working and they show up and
they get the job done and they get those great paydays.
Yes. So I'll throw this to both of you, and Katelyn, I'll probably have you address this first, but your work is both deeply centered on community engagement. What is one lesson that you've learned about the concept of accountability when you apply it to public institutions, private organizations, and how do you see communities gaining social capital by holding these organizations accountable?
Yeah, I think for me at least, I think that looking back at all my time just working in different sectors of education, whether that's in like the public school setting, in a school-based mental health program, trade programs that I've worked in, I think that no one organization has all the answers. I think that's like the biggest thing that I feel like a lot of organizations are struggling to admit sometimes.
Yeah.
Because your ideas are innovative, and yes, they're serving a purpose. But again, that collaboration piece is everything, because one thing might work for one person, it's not going to work for another person.
Yeah.
And just like in education, when they, change the way that they do a strategy to teach most of their class, that's important in our community as well, because if it's not working in one regard, we can try another way of doing things and still get very successful results.
Right. And share those
Yes.
attempts and results
Would be great.
for science.
Would be great. Research purposes.
Yeah.
I think, at least from a public sector standpoint, these jobs are hard, right? These jobs are hard and often overworked and underpaid. And there's a level of it for me where these are human beings who are just trying their best. And I think sometimes we forget that. I think there's a rational, probably more than rational thought that, I'm a taxpayer, right? These things should be easy, they should be simple, but when you're dealing with a city budget, when you're dealing with, a variety of people that you have to bring in to get something done, things get very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's difficult for folks to understand, but I think it's really incumbent upon those public servants to articulate that, and to also, I think, one of the ways that you kind of quell accountability and like the anger and frustration is actually being outside. I love that phrase. Shout out to Gen Z.
For real, I say it all the time.
Yeah. But that's, actually being a member of the community, showing up to events just because, not because you got to be there in your work capacity. So actually investing in this city, it's a great place to be. A lot of really great investment that city leaders are making in this city, but show up and see what those investments are about. There are a lot of great organizations doing incredible work, and I think it's just important to show up in those spaces. Again, I don't do a lot of things well, but one thing I do pretty decent is show up places.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important, if you're helping make decisions regarding the community, you should be in the community making those.
You got to be a villager to be in the village.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I also like that idea of acknowledging and thanking people for thankless jobs.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
The need for connection and belonging is so fundamental to both youth development and civic life. How has your experience leading these community-focused initiatives, like your work at YPCI, Indiana Teen Treatment Center, and your work with #LunchBag, how has this informed your perspective on what truly determines whether a community, whether it's focused on youth or policy, holds amid disagreement or change?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a really good question.
Can you run that back?
Yeah.
Snap a little bit. Yeah.
You both are doing such important work with the youth, with civic engagement. How has your work informed your perspective on what determines the community holding together when things are hard, when there's disagreement, when there's change? How can we remain united?
I would say consistency. I think it's really easy to kind of have an issue pop up, and a lot of times you see it online. I think I mentioned this in an article. Things are some of these sort of online focused things are episodic, and I think it's really important. Intensity is important, but I think it's also equally as important to be consistent. We started #LunchBag 10 years ago with a good friend of mine by the name of Lauren Ray, and we went out and we did 100 lunches the first day with 10 volunteers.
Wow.
To date, we've done like 40,000, and it was kind of a monthly thing where send out some texts, people show up, and then it built from there. COVID hits, and it's like, okay, things change. So we haven't been as consistent, but whenever I put the word out, folks show up. And the model has changed, right? You think about the dependency models that can be created there, and I think that's certainly important to think about. But if you haven't eaten in 3 days, I don't really care. I want to make sure that people, at least have a meal and also are engaged. Because one of the things that I realized really early on is that we've got to at least acknowledge folks. There's so many times where we're walking around downtown, and I have the privilege of being a 6-foot Black man, right? So there's not a lot of fear in me walking around. I know that can be different for folks.
Yeah.
But for me, and this, whether it comes from my mother or just being a human being, these are people, and we've got to acknowledge them. And those are just those little things that like make us human, right? It can't just be brushing people off. I've seen folks who are having manic episodes walking around, and the kind of person I am, I'm like, are you okay? And it's quelled things. And again, I know there's a certain privilege that I have, being able to not feel fear walking around downtown, but and not just say downtown, but just generally speaking, and just being really thoughtful around the human connection. I'm not going to change your life with a lunch bag. I'm not going to change your life with a conversation. But for a lot of the individuals that are unhoused, that are homeless, there's no human interaction, and that does something to your psyche. And in a small way, if me saying hello or acknowledging you, makes the day better, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, and those small things really add up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think consistency was I was going to go with that, to be honest. But I also think it shows up because consistency also holds you accountable. Yeah, I think especially working with kids, if they always knew how I was going to come in and start the day, whatever behaviors were going on, if I did something in particular, they're like, oh, this is what's coming next. Yeah. And having that safety net of, I know what's coming next, I can be safe in this classroom, and I know what to expect from that adult makes a huge difference, especially working with kids that may have like a trauma background. Yeah. And it also translates into like work with colleagues. I had a great boss. His name is Reginald Porter. He works for the Center for Leadership Development now. And
CLD graduate, 99?
Yeah. 99? Yeah. I'll have him go through the records.
That was in middle school, though, for the record. It was middle school. But
so is there an awkward middle school picture?
For sure. Probably like
for sure.
Cornrows and a clarinet, too.
Awesome. I will be looking into that.
Yeah. His first chair, by the way.
Okay, first chair. You better.
Well, he works for the Center for Leadership Development, but when I first started working for him, didn't have that much interaction just because he was overseeing everything. Yeah. And he would walk by, and then one day he just gave me this huge project. He's like, I see how consistent you are. Get this done. I was like, okay. Thankfully, I was able to get it done and like no stress about it. But I was like, I didn't even realize that he was picking up on those things because I was just running my classroom how I always run my classroom, being consistent and there for the kids. Yeah. And it went a long way, and still one of my good friends and buddies. And he's going to be annoyed that I mentioned him. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I think routine is very comforting to kids and adults. It's good to know that you can expect certain things to stay the same, especially when things outside of that may not ever stay the same. Yeah. It's nice to know that you can expect that people are going to show up, that the event will go on, that it'll start a certain way, and you can regulate yourself through that, because we are living in a world of a lot of uncertainty. Yeah. So finding those touch points is huge.
Absolutely. And even in regards to like YPCI, a lot of us, it's a volunteer board, and a lot of us have our careers and things that happen and life happens. Again, we still have those events that are going on. So who can we then rely on? And, I'll get a text message. I can't make it on time to this. Can you do this? For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Helping people up too when they need it. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for being on. It's been wonderful to talk to you both, get a little insight into your pieces and the amazing work that you're doing in the community. So thank you for being here with me, and make sure to check out Issue 12 Cerebral. Both of their pieces are so excellent. Pick up your copy. This will be out by the time the pre-lunch happy hours happen, so hopefully we got to see you at that event as well. But thank you both for contributing, for being a part of more, and doing such incredible work.
Thank you so much.
You are thanked in this moment. You are seen. We are grateful for you.
You'll be even more grateful when I find that picture of Greg.
Yes. Drop it in the chat.
Floating out there somewhere.
Well, thank Reginald you. Here soon.
Yes. Thank you both so much. And we'll hopefully see you again next week on Let's Talk More on Monday. Make sure to join us on Patreon for our masterclasses and our Founder series. And we are grateful for our More family as well. We'll We'll see you guys next time. Bye.